Shadari is joining us, so let's quickly talk aviation and we wrap up with the market as usual. Barely 24 hours ago, reports of the lifting of the ban of transit flights from Nigeria and other countries in the UAE made headlines. It was expected that transit flights from Nigeria, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Uganda would now have access into the Emirates. As the part of the conditions earlier stated, the United Arab Emirates, however, earlier stated that direct flights still remain suspended. But in a twist of fate, once again, the United Arab Emirates has shifted the date for resumption for transit flights from Nigeria to UAE to August 15. The UAE National Emergency and Crisis Management Authority had said that passengers will be able to transit through its airports from Thursday as long as they present negative PCR tests taking 72 hours before departure. But in a recent travel update posted on its website on Wednesday, Emirates said passengers who had been to or connected through Nigeria in the last 14 days will not be permitted on any Emirates flight bound for Dubai. Recall that UAE placed a ban on transit flights from these countries in a bid to cushion the spread of COVID-19 in its country. An aviation analyst and journalist, Mr. Wale Shadari, joins me now via Zoom. Thank you very much, Mr. Shadari. I appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been quite an interesting back and forth. We have seen the flight with the flight ban from the United Arab Emirates. Just yesterday, we're all expecting the list of transit flights to the UAE to take off. But once again, there's a shift to 15th of this month. What do you make of this whole situation? The lines of communications, retaliatory responses, and its impact on bilateral ties versus COVID-19 safety protocols?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's getting very interesting in the sense that we all know that there's a little spat between Nigeria and United Arab Emirates over vaccine, authenticity of vaccines that Nigerians and other countries take. There was a time they introduced antigen tests, rapid tests, and the federal government of Nigeria said no, it's in violation of WHO policy on how to test passengers. They prefer the PCR, which is more encompassing and more accurate than the antigen test. And it has been a kind of back and forth between Nigeria and the United Emirates. It's now a game of who blinks first. And, is also what I call Aeropolitics. They want to play their politics very well, and Nigerians too are holding their own very well. So it comes to who blinks first. When we thought everything was going to, or may have been settled, on Tuesday, there was a report from one of the agencies of in UAE that the United Arab Emirates has relaxed restriction on transit passenger. What it means is that Nigerians can travel via a third country, not directly to other country. So we're all excited, but I think 24 hours after that, the UAE made a statement to say no. What they have actually done is people who have resident permits, who were stuck in different parts of the world where they place the restriction, can now return to the UAE. We have a lot of Nigerians who are working there, who came home, and because of the COVID-19, they couldn't go back. So there's a kind of window open for them to ensure that they return back to base, to ensure that they return back to work. That is what has actually happened, not transit for Nigeria that we thought was in place. But like I said, we're still waiting to see who blinks first, whether the UAE will blink first, whether Nigeria will also blink. But the way it looks, it doesn't seem as if Nigeria is going to blink first. And for the first time, Nigeria, the federal government has held on to a reciprocity policy where you do me, I do you back. It's all allowed in international politics and international relations. So we're going to look at it. And I want to also believe that with time, before the end of the month, maybe the federal government and the UAE will sit down to review some of these policies to allow direct flights into each other countries. As we know, the UAE has lost a lot because we do not have airlines that can really give them that competition. It's one-sided. Although we have a Nigerian airline which is trying to reciprocate that, but it's a very weak airline. It cannot really, in honesty, match the service, the quality of service that the Emirates of this world offer. But they've done well for themselves, but it's actually one-sided, because if you look at it, Emirates Airline operates 2 flights into Lagos and operates another weekly flight into Abuja, which gives them about 21 frequency every week. So that is humongous. But when it comes to health, every other economic consideration take the back seat. We're talking about health. The UAE felt that the rising cases of COVID-19 was one that really gave them a lot of concern. And when you have issues like that, issues between health and economic matters, I think health matters will take preeminence. So we're still trying to see how who is going to break the ice and how we're going to see direct flight between Nigeria and Dubai or the UAE.
All right, the time is already fast spent, but before I let you go, how do we begin to improve our testing capacity, our airlines' ability to incorporate more safety measures and meeting conditions for visitors? The aviation sector has been badly hit by COVID-19 pandemic, and now this Delta variant raises fresh concerns for international trade and economic impact. International travel.
I think the federal government has done so well in the case of testing and in the case of modalities. Then we may not have done so well in the number of testing that we have done, but when it comes to aviation, we have done some of the things that we needed to do. Before now, there was a big scandal in Nigeria that people go to quacks to get fake certificate, and this actually caused a problem between the UAE and Nigeria, where the UAE felt some of the people coming into Nigeria, coming into Dubai, were coming with fake documents, fake PCR test. So what the government did, because it was a big embarrassment to the federal government, so what they did is to streamline it and to make the process very credible. And we have testing laboratories now that are licensed, accredited, let me use that word, to carry out this testing. Reputable laboratories to do all these things. And what they have also done to make the process very credible is, like, you have a barcode. If you go to a laboratory for your test, there will be a barcode that can be viewed anywhere in the world to show exactly all the processes you have gone through. I think that has been better compared to what we had initially. So I don't think it's a big problem. Likewise, we had also, Nigeria is not immune to fake procurement of fake certificate. Likewise, we also had reported cases of fake certificates in the UK and in some other places. But what they have done is to streamline it and to make the processes very credible. And that is what the government has done.
So moving on, let's just do this in 1 minute if we can. What is your outlook for the sector?
The aviation sector, if you look at the International Air Transport Association report that was out just 2 days ago, aviation in 2020 was the worst ever recorded in the history of aviation. For African airlines, for African aviation, Africa did 37 million passengers or thereabout, which was a far cry from about 60-something million passengers carried by African airline. Likewise, international airline globally, the statistics from international airlines show that 1.8 billion people flew in 2020 compared to 4 billion people that flew in 2019. That is a very, very, very big disparity, and that really showed how COVID-19 really affected aviation, not only in Nigeria but all over the world. We're just hoping the airlines are trying to recover quickly, but recovery may not be till maybe 2023 or 2024 before we can see the type of aviation we saw in 2019. It is really, really bad for the sector. So it is really, really bad for airlines. Airlines are going through a lot. Worst year for airline. 2020 was the worst year for airline ever. So we just hope that 2021 is going to be better, but it will be difficult for us to return to what we had in 2029 until 2023.
Mr. Wole Shadari, I must thank you for your time. I appreciate it that you made it a date to meet up or talk to us on the show today. Enjoy your day and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for having me. I wish you a happy.
All right, then.